Having already platinumed Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, I decided to tackle the latest game in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars Outlaws. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have you playing as the legendary Cal Kestis, or in fact any other force-wielding Jedi, but instead you play as a smuggler called Kay Vess, and like all Star Wars games, you can't operate alone, so she also has her trusty companion called Nix. Just like Diddy and his baby oil, this game is already off to a poor start, as I now have 40 hours ahead with no force powers or frankly any talents whatsoever other than being freakishly good at parkour. And only a blaster to keep me entertained. The game starts off on the planet of Canto Blight, where Kay is having a rough time of things. Not only did her mum abandon her and make her an orphan, but she's also broke. Fortunately for Kay, her luck's about to change. Now I'm behind the sticks.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Kay is what's known in the underworld as a slicer, which is the Star Wars version of a hacker. But unlike most stereotypical hackers in our world, she doesn't live in her mum's basement, mainly because her mum left her when she was a child, so she instead lives above a bar. Like all good hackers, their talent mainly lies in the tools at their disposal, and unfortunately for Kay, her data spike was broken by the 6th kin. So to learn the controls, the first mission has us finding a place to get the data spike fixed. As you have no money, you get the first opportunity to really put Nix's talents to the test, and you have to pickpocket enough money to cover the cost of fixing the data spike. With the data spike fixed, you then have to sneak into Club Taurus, where you need to steal an identicard before having to escape. Still broke and now on the run from the 6th kin, Kay takes on a job that she hopes is going to give her the opportunity to leave Canto Blight for good. She isn't wrong, but not in the way she expects. After parkouring your way around the cliff, you get a rather scenic view of Canto City, and more importantly, Sleero's mansion that you're about to rob. After making your way inside and stealthily making your way past the guards, with the help of the grass that somehow makes you invisible, you make it to the vault. Little do you know, the big score you're hoping for wasn't all it cracked up to be, and you're instead double-crossed and left in the safe ready to be caught by Sleero. Trusty Nix, however, couldn't let this happen, and manages to attack Sleero, giving you the opportunity to make a run for it. Running out of both space and ideas, you conveniently fall right into Sleero's hangar, where you make the decision you're going to steal Sleero's ship to escape Canto, which at this point seems like a sensible idea, bearing in mind everyone's out to get you and you still have no money. The ship Kay steals is called the Trailblazer, and this is now your ship for the rest of the game. After escaping Canto and heading out to space, you punch the hyperdrive and end up in orbit near the planet Tashara. After crash landing, you leave the ship and bump straight into Waka, who becomes our first friend.
Oh, friend!
And we get introduced to our special ability, Adrenaline Rush, which allows you to slow down time and chain together multiple enemy one-shot kills. This ability has a few trophies linked to it later down the line, once you've upgraded the ability, so we'll see this again later. After taking down the bandits who were after Waka, he lets us know he's a mechanic and offers to help fix our ship. He also points out you have a speeder on board, and for doing this, you get the first trophy of the game, Made It Somehow, for acquiring a blaster, starship and speeder. Unlike most solo story games, there isn't a whole heap of story related trophies, only 11 out of the 50 trophies, but you do pick up quite a few along the way throughout the main campaign, without trying. Waka tells you to head to Miragana to speak to the Pike Syndicate boss Gorak, so you can earn some money to buy parts for your ship, and this also gives us the first opportunity to experience the terrible speeder driving mechanics this game has to offer. After making it to Miragana, and through the Imperial checkpoint, you get the first look at the bustling city. One thing this game does do well is the maps and graphics, aside from Kay's hair, but we won't talk about that. And Miragana is a great example of this. You find the cantina and head inside, well, you get the opportunity to find and speak to Gorak. The bartender won't let you up, so you'll have to find a different way using the trusty data spike and vents, which you'll find are a key part of this game, allowing you to traverse areas without being seen. After speaking to Gorak and getting kicked out, because it turns out Waka isn't a good name to be dropping around Miragana, you meet Danka, the contract broker, who's a key contact throughout the game, but especially at the start, as she's the one going to be giving you the jobs to do to earn some money. This is the point where you get introduced to the reputation system in this game. But to cut a long story short, Virtually everything you do in this game, mission-wise, has an effect on the reputation system, and each time there will be a positive reputation gain for one syndicate and a negative gain for the other. It's important to keep the Pikes and Crimson Dawn happy whilst on Tashara, as without this you won't have access to their bases, and as the huts are mainly based on Tatooine, you don't have to worry about them for a while. Danka's first mission for you has you infiltrate the Pikes base, and because your reputation with them isn't good, this is a prohibited area where you cannot get caught. This means you're going to have to parkour your way around without getting seen by the many patrolling guards. Unfortunately for me, it didn't last long, but for disabling an alarm using a security terminal whilst the alarm is active, I do get the trophy Now You See Me, Now You Don't. After eventually making it to the Pike office, you'll find the files you're looking for and set off an alarm in the process. You also pick up some interesting intel which you'll get the chance to use later. Once you've managed to escape, you head back to the cantina to meet Danka, where she introduces you to her client that hired you, Illyra. Illyra is an agent of another syndicate, Crimson Dawn, and you can also get contracts from her as well as Danka in the future. Here you're hit with your first major decision of the game. Give the info we acquired about the Pike Trader to Illyra, which will increase Crimson Dawn reputation, or keep it for ourselves and hand it over to Gorak, which will increase Pike reputation. A lot of these decisions throughout the game will depend on your current reputation with each syndicate, but there are also guides online as to which options are best to choose. So if you don't want to make the decisions yourself, then use those, as they'll give you the most optimal choices throughout the game. In this case, as the Pike Syndicate rewards are better than that of Crimson Dawn, I chose to keep the information for Gorak. At this point, you can now explore Tashara freely if you want to, but you'll probably fall straight into the next mission like I did, as speaking to Danka again kicks this off, where she helps you get an upgrade for your blaster for free from one of the merchants. He, however, doesn't have all the parts you need, so you'll have to steal the rest from either the Pikes or Crimson Dawn. As I chose to give Gorak the information, I chose to steal from the Pikes, as I had a good reputation with them at this point, and I could just walk straight into their base without the need to be stealthy. After breaking into the outer vault room, you find everything you need, and you also find out that the Pikes, and every syndicate for that matter, have their own vault in their base filled with good loot. In each of the outer sections of these vaults, there will be a yellow machine you can hack, which then gives you the locations around the world to find the key cards to open the force fields. This is not integral to the story, so if you want to ignore these you can, but it's a good way to get some extra cash and gear early on into the game. Before leaving the Pike base, I stumbled upon some intel I'd found, and for completing my first intel chain, Crooked Merchant, I got the trophy Stay on Target. Having everything you need, you travel to the nearby settlement of Jauntus Hope, where Waka meets you with the now fixed Trailblazer. You can use the workbench inside the Trailblazer to upgrade your blaster to fire ion shots, which you then need to use to steal the smuggler's stash, the objective of this Danka quest. You then meet Danka in the cantina to finish off this mission, giving her what you found. After upgrading the Trailblazer with the parts from Illyra, she then appears to offer you a new job, where you head off to space to recover some cargo and purge some data from the Imperial fueling station. This mission is one long stealth and parkour fest, like many of the missions in this game, truth be told, and the data you're tasked with finding and wiping is in a room far, far away from the hangar you landed in. Here you get to experience Kay's inhuman strength, as she's able to knock out stormtroopers wearing helmets with one punch, something best overlooked if you want to enjoy this game for what it is. Along the way to the room with the terminal you need to hack, I picked up the trophy Get Rhythm for picking 20 locks, and after making it to the room you meet Bosnok, the keeper of the data vault, and he gives us the dilemma of framing the Pikes or Crimson Dawn. After making your decision, you then have to escape with Bosnok, or he'll alert everyone to what you're doing. Once you've made it back to the ship with Bosnok, you fly back into space and use the comms relay to clear your wanted status, before returning to Miragana to give either syndicate the good news. The whole wanted system in this game is a bit of a mess really, and the entire Empire can simply forget you exist at the click of a button, despite you constantly attacking them throughout the game. But like all other issues, it's best to just overlook these and enjoy the game for what it is. After completing the last mission, Waka calls you to meet him so he can discuss further upgrading the Trailblazer. But before you're able to do this, you first have to upgrade your speeder, and to do this, you'll have to complete an expert quest to unlock the mechanic's silo. On the way to her, I gracefully fly off a cliff on my speeder and get the trophy trophy like a bantha for performing a perfect landing. You'll notice that most of this game revolves around finding someone who can help you, but first you have to do something for them, or they're not interested in helping you. There are 9 experts in total in this game, and they all have different objectives to complete that give you an in-game ability upgrade. In this case, with CeeLo, a majority of her abilities are related to the speeder. Once you've explored the Imperial Wind Harvester and found the Atmospheric Accelerator, you return to CeeLo and she upgrades your speeder and you unlock the ability to speed boost. With the new ability in hand, you can finally speak to Waka, who gives you the location of a wrecked ship with some parts you'll need to further upgrade the Trailblazer. The speed boost ability allows you to jump bigger gaps than before and also boost into headwind that you wouldn't otherwise have been able to do, which allows you to access the area where the wreck is located. After doing, you guessed it, some more parkour, you eventually make it to the command center to grab the nav computer for Waka, but before you can, somehow, some Xeric Besh warriors find you, sent by Slero. Waka, the scumbag, however, has other ideas and wants the Trailblazer for himself and holds you up at gunpoint. I'm not really sure why, if he was able to get to this point on his own, he didn't just go get the computer himself and steal the ship, but anyway, fuck that guy. With Fishface now off to the depths, you get held up at gunpoint by Vale instead, bounty hunter sent by Slero, twice, before you're saved by a mysterious droid who aids your escape. Once you make it back to the Trailblazer, you're hit with a cutscene that sets up the main objective for the rest of the campaign, and for completing all the main quests on Tashara, you get the trophy Tip the Scales. After listening to Jaden and ND5's job they want you to complete, you fly off into space ready to recruit a crew, ready to rob Slero again. Very creative from the developers here. Before reaching the endgame, you'll need to recruit a safecracker, a droidsmith, and a heavy to help you with the final heist. This is the moment where the game really opens up for you to complete as you wish. There are 4 main planets on this game: Tashara, where you've spent most of the game so far, and 3 new planets: Kijimi, Akiva, and Tatooine. At this point, you're free to choose whichever planet you'd like to go to next, and as ND5 suggests Kijimi, I decide to go there first. From this point until the end of the game, you can complete the missions in any random order, subject to which order you decide to visit the other planets, and if you complete all the missions there before heading to a different planet. After landing on Kijimi, you're introduced to the 4th syndicate in the game, the Ashiga clan, who you'll find out through the Kijimi missions are working with Crimson Dawn, which helps you build up both syndicates' reputations at the same time. The Kijimi mission line is all about locating the safecracker Aang, so after speaking to the bartender in the cantina, you find out she's been captured by the Ashiga clan due to not paying her debts, and is currently working for them in a factory somewhere on the planet. So guess what? We're going to have to sneakily parkour our way into the Ashiga clan district to get some intel we can use. After making your way in, you find out the Ashiga clan are in search of a relic stolen by Crimson Dawn, so you decide to find it for them to trade for Aang's freedom. Once you've stolen the relic back from Crimson Dawn, you stroll right up to the Ashiga clan's palace to return the relic, but unsurprisingly, it doesn't lead to Aang's freedom. But conveniently, the Queen does agree to let Aang go free if you work for them. After returning to the ship to meet ND5 and upgrading your blaster with the power module he provides you with, you get the opportunity to speak with the Queen's daughter Krisk, who tells you how you can break Aang out of the factory. This cutscene gives you the first introduction to Kiara, the leader of Crimson Dawn, who is working with Krisk to overthrow the Queen. After speaking to Krisk and Kiara, you're directed to a tunnel where you can enter the factory, and are let through by the guards who are expecting your arrival, to find your speeder conveniently placed directly in front of you. This won't be the first time your speeder magically appears out of thin air in this game, but at least it saves you a lengthy walk for the sake of being unrealistic. After exploring and parkouring your way through the factory, you find Aang, but she won't leave without you finding her belongings. After you've got these for her, it's time to escape, and you both separately make your way towards the exit, taking out lots of guards along the way. Unfortunately, whilst you'd have thought this would be the safecracker secured and time to head to a new planet, you'd be wrong, as Aang tells you she won't join the crew yet, as she's too busy taking down the Queen for Kiara, so you'll end up having to help her finish her vendetta before you get the opportunity to move on. For Krisk to successfully pull her coup and overthrow the Queen, they need you to blow a hole into the Ashiga fortress and disable the turrets. Sounds simple, right? Nothing can go wrong with this. Shock horror, you'd be wrong. After traversing through the ice caverns and somehow not freezing to death as you're hardly dressed for the weather, you blow the wall as instructed and make make your way inside to disable the turrets. Once this is done, Ankh says she'll accept your Kanto job if we can get something else for her while we're there, the Origin Strand. After escaping the cryo chamber with the Origin Strand in hand, you're back at the Ashiga fortress, except unlike before, it's been partially destroyed, and despite the snow everywhere, fire burns on the ground. Entering the throne room gives us another choice to make: give the strand to the Queen or to Krisk. The choice you make here doesn't affect this story in any way, and with either decision you end back at the Trailblazer with Ankh, but there is no reputational downside to giving it to Krisk, whereas there is for the Queen, so it's best to side with Krisk. For completing all the main quests on Kijimi, you earn the trophy one job at a time. Ankh on board and back in space, you then have to decide which planet to go to next. For me, it was Tatooine to recruit the Heavy, and no, it's not Lizzo. After landing on Tatooine, you meet Sheriff Quint, who turns out to be one of the 9 experts, but I didn't actually find this out until after I finished the main story. After taking out some of Jabba's goons, Quint gives us some info on the location of the Heavy you're looking for, called Hoss. After you investigate the moisture farm, you find a dead body of a bounty hunter with a transponder pinging Hoss's location. Following the transponder, you eventually find Hoss tied up by some Tusken raiders, who agree to let him go if you retrieve a Dragon Pearl for them. Sound familiar to the Ankh storyline? All the creativity over at Ubisoft must have been focused on Assassin's Creed Shadows rather than this game. So after locating and clearing the bandit camp and retrieving the Dragon Pearl, they let Hoss go, and he tells you to meet him in Mos Eisley. After waiting at the Trailblazer for Hoss to arrive, for longer than Kay's patience allows, you get a call from Hoss to say he's at the cantina, so you set out to go find him. You find Hoss playing a game of sabacc, to which he loses, and as he doesn't have the funds to pay, he offers Nix to his opponent to settle his debt. Clearly, this doesn't go down well with Kay, and not long after, she gets knocked out. Once you regain consciousness, you learn Nix has been sold to Jabba, and you're going to need to break into his palace to rescue him. ND5 tells you of a back way into the palace, and after a speeder ride through a tunnel, you arrive with some great views of the palace in the setting sun. Doing the usual parkour and stealth you've come to expect at this point, you make it into the palace and find Nix in the menagerie. Unsurprisingly, it's not going to be a nice, quick and easy escape, and you end up getting caught by Jabba and dropped into the Rancor pit, where Hoss gets eaten, making this entire questline a waste of time. You, alongside Vale the bounty hunter, who's been after you all game, then have to escape the palace together, but not before the Rancor boss fight. Truthfully, none of the gameplay in this game is particularly difficult, so it's pretty easy to defeat the Rancor, but this doesn't straight away lead to your freedom either, as you get captured by Jabba again, but this time you manage to barter your way out by doing a job for Jabba. For escaping Jabba's palace, you get the trophy Making Friends. Before taking on the next mission, I did a few contracts, which earned me 3 more trophies. The Queen's Word is Law for reaching max rep with a Ashiga clan, Think I Had a Choice for reaching the lowest possible reputation with a faction, and Slice Like You for slicing 20 terminals. The job for Jabba consists of you breaking into an Imperial base. You guessed it, to steal some data. Very original. This is pretty much like every other Imperial area, and you just have to make your way through all the stormtroopers and many vents before grabbing the data and meeting Vale at the speeders, which again appear out of nowhere. You and Vale escape the chasing stormtroopers before reaching the Hutt settlement of Mos Algo, ready to pass over the data. But once you arrive, the area is deserted, because somehow, long enough in advance to fully evacuate, Bib Fortuna tells you that you were followed. Yeah, makes sense. But he wasn't wrong, as you then have to fight off waves of stormtroopers. But once you've done this, Jabba is appeased, and you're allowed to leave Tatooine in search of the droidsmith on Akiva. And for completing all the main quests on Tatooine, you get the trophy Rare Friends. Before heading off to our last planet Akiva, I managed to pick up 3 more trophies. Never Tell Me the Odds for defeating an enemy ship without dealing the finishing blow with lasers or missiles. Good Listener for listening to the longest sob story in the galaxy, and They Live Up to the Name for clearing wanted level status by completing a Death Trooper confrontation event. I think by this point you can guess what I'm going to say. We don't know where the droidsmith is, so we're going to have to find someone to give us some information. In this case, that person is Surat Nuat. Like 2 of the other 3 planets, he's located in the cantina. After speaking to him, you find out the droidsmith Gadik is, you guessed it, an Imperial base, so you'll need to infiltrate it to get him out. At this point, I can't even be bothered to complain about the repetitive storyline, so we'll just move on. After infiltrating the base and finding Gadik, you escape. But before you can continue on the main storyline, you need to find another one of the 9 experts, Temin, the Scavenger, to get an upgrade to your speeder that allows you to travel over water. Taking another small break from the main storyline, I pick up 5 more trophies. Against all odds for winning my first fixed Faithia race, Cutthroat Politics for reaching max reputation with the pikes, No Match for a Good Blaster for fully upgrading a blaster module, Give Me the Good Stuff for buying an item from a merchant's VIP stock, and Adventure and Excitement for discovering all the planet areas. With the upgrade secured, you regroup with Gadeek, after taking down a few Imperial Viper droids that Gadeek had been working on for the Empire. Following this, you'll have to infiltrate another Imperial base, which is only accessible by water, which is why you need the speeder upgrade before doing this mission. Once inside, and having shut down the base defences, ready for the rebels to attack, you meet back up with Gadeek to hack the Alpha Viper droid, which turns all the other Viper droids in the base against the Empire, and with it secures a successful attack for the rebels. For finishing this mission, you get the trophy Spiked. With Gadeek satisfied, you now have the crew secured, ready for the final heist. Well, close to being ready, as you first have to repair ND5, who took some damage back in the Imperial base. After returning to Temin, he tells you that the parts you need to repair ND5 are rare, and you'll need to break into an old, abandoned, separatist droid army factory, conveniently located in the catacombs under his shop. You really couldn't make it up at this point. During my journey through the catacombs, I get the trophy Into the Mainframe for slicing my 10th advanced terminal. With the catacombs in my rearview mirror, you'll eventually find the factory full with old droids rusting away. Once you've activated all the generators, you have to take down some Zerek Besh agents that have again somehow managed to find you in the middle of nowhere, before reuniting with Asara, the red-skinned rebel that we freed from Sliro's vault in the opening mission. He says he can get you the part you need to fix ND5, but in classic Star Wars Outlaws fashion, he needs you to do something for him first. So you leave Gadeek and ND5 in the rebel base and head off with Asara to free the prisoners from the Hutt cartel. Once you free the prisoners, you get found by more Zerek Besh agents, and once you've taken them out and regrouped with Asara, ND5 is saved. Asara agrees to join you on your heist, but I'm not sure how useful this is, bearing in mind he's already been caught in the safe once. Jalen meets you on the Trailblazer to tell you he's found the second slicer, which happens to be none other than Kay's mother, Rico. For completing all main quests on Akiva, you get the trophy Best of the Best. Less than impressed with the crew's latest additions, Kay speaks to Jalen, who, to cut a long story short, tells us she has no choice and to get on with it. So we go meet Rico by an Imperial shuttle, ready to infiltrate another Imperial space station, this time to steal Sliro's master key. Starting this mission is the point of no return for the end of this campaign, and the last 3 missions run back to back to back. So if you haven't got all your upgrades sorted, do these before proceeding. Now on the Imperial station, you get to do some family bonding and slice terminals with the mother that made you an orphan. How lovely. You then proceed further into the base and get spotted by the camera on a Viper droid, so you have to make a detour to wipe the data from its cameras. After this, you head towards Sliro's room, ready to steal the master key. But passing through one of the many vents, you find Sliro in conversation with Darth Vader, because it wouldn't be a Star Wars game without a Darth Vader cameo, now would it? It turns out that Sliro isn't quite who he seems to be, and that Zerek Besh is just a front for the Empire, and he's actually the director of the Imperial Security Bureau, or the ISB for short. Not quite the syndicate leader he's made out to be. The most shocking part of all of this comes right after, where Kay is talking to Rico and doesn't even know who Darth Vader is. I would have thought the most infamous Sith Lord would have been known about by everyone, but then again, maybe the news didn't travel to the room above the bar Kay lived in. After the shock of seeing Vader nearly turn Sliro into a glass porcupine, you make it to his room and slice the access codes for the vault from his terminal. A whole heap of parkour later, you make it back to the ship and return to Canto Blight to regroup at the bar Kay used to live at with the rest of the team. For learning Sliro's secret, you get the trophy The Director. Unlike last time infiltrating Sliro's mansion, you don't traverse the cliff, and instead make your way through a security checkpoint and down into the underbelly of the mansion's infrastructure. You eventually reach the hangar where you stole the Trailblazer at the start of the game, and you have to stealthily make your way through with 0 checkpoints along the way. As I hadn't decided to complete all the abilities, I didn't have the electric shock prod to take down the robots and larger enemies, so this made my options quite limited, and after a bit of luck, I managed to make it to the far side, only getting detected as I climbed into the vent, which got me the next checkpoint without failing the hangar section and having to start over for the 5th time. Now you just have to make it back to the vault using a lot of the corridors from the start of the game. Unsurprisingly, this wasn't plain sailing, and inside the vault you get met with plenty of Zerek Besh soldiers and Slero, with Vale at his side. Despite Vale spending the entirety of the game hunting you for the bounty Slero placed on your head, she has a change of heart and helps you escape in return for a cut of the score. A bad choice, you'll find out shortly. You make your way, loot in hand, or should I say loot in floating box beside you, through the casino before jumping into the back of the Trailblazer and off into the night sky. And for completing all main quests on Canto Blight, you get the trophy Eye on the Score. It turns out that in true naive Kay style, she's been played again, and Jalen wasn't after millions of unmarked Beskar credits, but instead Slero's database of blackmail, so he could surpass him as the leader of Zerek Besh. The cherry on top of the cake is Rico, Kay's mum, knew about this the entire time, so not only did she abandon her as a child, she also screwed her over on what she thought was the biggest score of her life.
Why did you do that? Funny.
Now that's what you call mummy issues. Turns out Kay was pretty pissed off at all this and ends up getting knocked out again. It's like she's in a relationship with Chris Brown or something, and locked in the escape pod on the Trailblazer, which was now sitting aboard the Imperial Star Destroyer, the Revelator. Kay, sporting a full Stormtrooper outfit, escorts Gadeek as a prisoner without being detected, until she finds Slero and manages to join his protection and infiltrate the meeting with Jalen. Vader appears, this time digitally, to tell Slero he's no longer the leader of Zerek Besh, and Jalen has taken his place. Here we also learn of Jalen's motivations. In another shock twist in the storyline, it turns out Slero is actually Jalen's brother. Slero lied to the Empire to gain his position by stating that his family were going to use their factories to plot against the Emperor, when in fact the opposite was true, and they were going to build a fleet of destroyers for the Imperials, which would have made them the richest family in Corellia. Turns out Slero was the bastard child, and Jalen was the heir to the family's assets, which made Slero jealous. Jalen then used ND5 to kill Slero, and Kay then exposes herself. No, not like that. Saying she wants ND5. You then run away from ND5, who is hunting you due to Jalen's orders, before you destroy his programming using the electricity in the shield core. Returning the favour for freeing him from Jalen's control, he then takes him out for you, and you have to escape the Revelator as a trio, picking up Ladik along the way. After making it back to the Trailblazer, Asara alerts the rebels on Akiva that their location is known, and Kay nobly decides to attack the Revelator to buy them some time to escape. She activates a distress signal, where you're then joined by one of the 4 syndicates who come to your aid. Whoever turns up is based on who you have the highest reputation with, which in my case was the Pikes. You, alongside the Pikes, destroy the Revelator, and with it you end the campaign, before returning to the bar to find out what everyone's plans are next. For destroying the Revelator and finishing the campaign, you get the trophy calling in some favours. With the story now over, it's time to clean up the missing trophies, of which there are many, as I'm currently sitting at pretty much the halfway point with 26 out of 50. Fortunately, none of these trophies require me to complete all the side missions or 100% to complete the game, so I can speed through these in no time, or so I thought. First up, I needed to get to max reputation with the 2 syndicates I still needed to do, Crimson Dawn and the Hutt Cartel. After this, I finished the remaining expert quests and the High Roller quest line, where you meet Lando Calrissian. After cheating and beating Lando at Sabak, I get another trophy. There's then a whole host of quick trophies like Galactic Gourmet for sampling all the street food, Easy Pickings for pickpocketing a customer in every cantina, Might Want to Buckle Up for fully upgrading the Trailblazer, The Heavier They Fall for defeating a raider to clear a wanted status, Galaxy Drift for performing a 30-second drift on the speeder, It Wasn't Me for bribing an Imperial officer to clear a wanted level 5, and sometimes I amaze even myself for defeating an enemy ship after a loop maneuver. With the quick and easy trophies out the way, it was time to tackle something a bit more challenging. In this game, there are 2 different arcade games located on machines around the planets. As I knew there was one of these machines in Mos Eisley near the landing pad, I decided to go for this purely out of ease. But in hindsight, this was a bad choice, as this game, Ryder, is harder than the other called Raven 6, and it took me best part of an hour of repeating this over over and over and over, probably nearly 100 times, before I finally managed to put a winning time together. The next 2 trophies revolve around the Adrenaline Rush ability, but before I could get either of these, I first needed to progress the Gunslinger Expert to allow me to chain 6 targets in one Adrenaline Rush and 5 whilst on a speeder. This is possible to do both simultaneously, but I'm not that talented. The next 8 trophies are all a bit of a grind, as they all require you to do a certain task a certain number of times. The most annoying of these was Into the Darkness for destroying enemy ships inside the Kajimi Nebula. This took me longer than I would like to admit, purely due to the fact that barely any ships spawn in this area, and when they do, you have to make sure you're in the clouds and unable to lock onto the ships with missiles for each to count. I won't bore you with the details on the other 7 trophies, as we'll be here all day, but here they are. Given there are only 2 gold trophies in this entire game, and we already got the first for finishing the main campaign, I thought it would only be appropriate to leave the other one until last. If you watched my last video, you'll know I love some trophy cheese, and this trophy is no exception. Each of the 4 syndicates have their own capital ship that spawns in different orbits outside each of the planets. The first one I tackled was the Crimson Dawn ship in the Tashara orbit, and by tackled, I mean rammed repeatedly before engaging for the final blow with rockets. For some reason, taking hull damage doesn't count if you're not engaged in the fight, so you can smash these ships over and over without firing a shot if you really wanted to. This cheese, in my opinion, is completely valid, as the spawns for these ships are frustrating to say the least. The Ashiga ship took forever to appear, and is a long way away from the respawn checkpoint, but this was nothing compared to the Hutt and Pike ships in Tatooine. That being said, after loading from checkpoint over and over for an hour, it turns out I was in the wrong area of space.
This guy stinks!
And as soon as I went to the correct place, both ships spawned together. To say I was frustrated about this was an understatement, but after smashing into and destroying the last 2 ships, we put an end to this trophy grind, earning the last trophy for the platinum. Despite this game's writing flaws and unrealistic gameplay, I did actually enjoy playing it, and it certainly didn't feel as repetitive at the time as it seems in this video. Or maybe it does, I don't know. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think. I was a little disappointed that I was able to get the platinum without completing all the side missions, as I feel there was a lot of content this game could have wrapped into the trophies, rather than some of the choices they did make. This certainly isn't the best modern Star Wars game, as both the Jedi games are far better, but if you enjoy games like Uncharted or other Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed, the gameplay will feel familiar and you'll probably enjoy it, especially if you like Star Wars, as the worlds created here are pretty good. Got to give the developers some credit for something, don't I? If you're still here and want to see me platinum some other games, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and drop a comment letting me know what games you want to see next. Up next is Astro's Playroom. I'll see you in the next one.